that's kind of group content in a yeah. So now we can talk about solo content. We'll probably go through this a little faster because a lot of it is kind of like kind of the flip side of what we talked about. So solo content is things like leveling up a character, running quests, watching the storylines. But of course, like these things can also be group content if they're designed well. Like some people like to run dungeons in order to level up because that's the most efficient thing. So leveling up a character can be group content. In Final Fantasy, like like once you've kind of done the main scenario quest line is enough to kind of get one class up to max level. If you want to maximize other classes, then you have to look for other ways. Running dungeons tend to be so basically if you're running if you're leveling up one class in Final Fantasy 14, you can do it almost entirely solo with the occasional acquired dungeon or trial or whatnot. But if you're leveling up other things, there's a lot more focus on group being group content. But so kind of some of the advantages of solo content is it's basically a lot easier to have control over. As an individual, you can kind of set your own pace. Much more efficient achieving because you don't have that social overhead of coordinating with other people. Like I said, kind of like the flip side is easier to do story content by cutscenes. And you kind of get this feeling of like what we used to call alone together. And this was kind of like coined, like looking at non-MMO content. You're able to do this. Like the example of this was bowling. Going to bowling alley. Like you might rent a lane and be bowling by yourself, but you're kind of surrounded by people, so you're not just like some recluse who doesn't want to deal with other people. Okay, MMOs kind of do the same thing. Solo content. Sure, you're just doing stuff by yourself, but hey, there's other people. You can maybe chat on chat channel when you're feeling chatty and whatnot. You know, you can have the interactions at your own speed.
Until you hit Rob on Savage mode, and then you wish everyone else would die in a fire.
Then you kind of see the advantage of a type of thing. So a single player game of MMO. I think like the big thing, like kind of what we're talking about here is it avoids that Tankxiety issue where like kind of that pressure about how to how to do content with other people. If you're doing it alone, then the only person you're going to disappoint is yourself, which happens kind of frequently for some people. But
hey, I told you not to talk about that.
look, you've already brought up that you're a bad, so all fair game at this point. And so the downside of hill content basically, kind of pretty obvious. It's a lonely experience if you're not having other characters around to, if you're not having other people around to basically kind of like, to chat with and whatnot. Again, and kind of like, a lot of it's like, from a player point of view is why are you paying a subscription? What's essentially a single player game?
Yeah. One of the things that comes up to me a lot when I'm playing like a lot of recent single player games is that they'll try to do the same like dress up content that like MMOs do, like Final Fashion 14 on
right
fashion frames. Like single player games will try to do it, and I have like no interest in it whatsoever because there's no one else there to share it with. So why should I invest in doing this fashion stuff in the single player game?
Right. I mean, and yeah, I mean, there are some people that like kind of like doing stuff, expression stuff for their own sake. Like, there's people in Final Fantasy that will doll up their characters and then take screenshots and share them. Like, there's a ton of Instagram accounts doing that, just that. So, I mean, you could theoretically do the same thing in a single player game, but yeah, I mean, it feels a lot less meaningful, and like, that interest is kind of like a very kind of small slice of things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But also looking at things like if you're mostly solo, you're gonna be kind of beating your head against difficult content, or you have to have some kind of like weird mechanic explaining it. Like in Final Fantasy 14, they have this thing, it's a storyline thing called the Echo, but like if you fail a single player instance enough times, they will give you this Echo. It's like you're gonna do a little more damage, you're gonna take a little less damage, you're gonna heal a little bit more. And it feels like a little bit of an artificial kind of like yeah, sorry about that, maybe that was a little hard.
It's a bit of a handicap.
Right. But like, what's interesting is like when it's not instance though, like it's really kind of jarring. So like in the most recent expansion, there was a place, an unlock for the kind of the storyline group raids, which are fairly casual. Um, they're raids in that they have a lot of people and they're very complex, but they're still a fairly casual thing. They're nowhere near as kind of hard as like the savages and extremes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was these two red chocobos you had to fight.
Oh my
And
god.
yes, every Final Fantasy 14 player right now just cringed at that mention, because like it was these two chocobos that were out in the open world, and they would cast this very fast cast
Meteor. They throw
meteor.
at you.
Right. Which not only did a ton of damage, but also put a damage debuff on you, so that you took more damage the next time you got hit with it. And like it was basically if you were playing any sort of character that had to stay still in order to do damage, like you got your lunch eaten.
Yeah, I recently had to fight those on Fina,
Right.
and
And
I figured out to kite them around and learn their cast pattern.
right. I mean, like it's possible. I'm sure people did it, but like for the most part, the easiest way to do it is you basically call over someone, a friendly someone, to basically like occupy one or heal you or do something in order to take some of
Mm.
the load off of it. Or someone else to damage the things while they were chasing you around, whatever. But like having another person there basically just made this so much easier. And you kind of like kind of touch time about that. Like one of the problems with solo content is it's really jarring when you basically the game kind of requires group content all of a sudden. Um, something like I want to talk about a little bit later is like I played Lord of the Rings Online with my significant other at the time. We had these two characters that were like perfect together. Like we could do a lot of group content with just the two of us. We were so well, we were put together so well. But they had kind of like a main scenario quest type thing, where sometimes they would throw you into a solo instant.
Mm-hmm.
And like, my significant other was very tanky and could do a little of everything, but didn't do a whole lot of damage. My character was a lot less tanky, but still kind of tanky, but could do a whole lot of damage. And so when we got thrown into an instance, like my significant other would kind of get bored because like she was kind of like not killing things fast enough. I would get frustrated because I would die a couple times, but we would kind of end about the same time generally, and it was kind of like a just terrible experience for us because we had built these characters to be group characters in a single player game, and even like I said, we can even do group content, but like when we were forced apart, when we were forced to solo, it was just a lot less fun experience. And like the other thing of course is like kind of what we're talking about with the single player games, like when you're done with content there's a little else to do. You've got nobody to show things off to, you got nobody to demonstrate. Another big thing is like demonstrating your mastery of something. Your the that's the big thing for achievers is basically to master something and be able to show proof of that mastery, whether it's items or titles or whatnot. And so like these pretty items you could just kind of get ignored in single player games for the most part.
Yeah, bragging rights, and welcome to the stream.